This is Ifan from the Strategic Day Trader, and this is your market wrap for February 8th, 2019. SPY down 0.17% and the Qs 0.12. It was a bigger gap, and we got a nice rally here into the afternoon to basically close almost unchanged. We're going to be almost unchanged on the week here on the Qs and on the SPY. You can see the SPY pretty much unchanged there on the week. So we've reached into kind of this inflection point here. Just to recap, yesterday we were looking for the trigger of this sell setup, which it sure did with the gap, to start a bearish bias. And since then, it's rallied back. So over today's high, that bearish bias is no longer going to be valid. So for now, it's still there. We'll hold on to that until it takes out today's high. And we'll see if it does that on Monday. Otherwise, we'll maintain the bearish bias. Okay, and then once it takes that out, we'll be back to neutral there and see what we get. I think this buying has shown a little bit of fatigue, ran up into resistance. That's what we're looking for. We shed the bullish bias, looking for the entry into a short bias, which we got today. But as you can see, not much follow through after the gap down. So we'll see. We're going to hold on to this bearish bias just until it takes out today's high. Okay. On the SPY here, be looking more at 270.25. I think the Qs, are more like equal highs. So this one is fine as today's high. And then on the SPY here, it will be over 270.25. And we'll be back to neutral. So, that'll just be, that'll put us back in the right place. We tried to go higher, tried to go lower. If the exploration lower can't get follow through, right, then that just tells you we've reached a point where buyers and sellers are about equal. So we're kind of got this tug of war going on. And so we'll just have to wait and see. We've been following this hourly uptrend. We were bullish, and then the hourly uptrend broke. We went to neutral. We got the sell setup. We went to bearish. And so if we don't get follow through on the sell setup, then it just goes to show that we're not ready to come in yet. But for now, going into Monday, we'll stick with the bearish bias, okay, until we take out today's high on the Qs. And then for the SPY, it's 270.25. Okay. All right. Let's get into the tough discussion here. The tough stuff. So the COTY was called, I called this morning on the COTY, and this was given as a buy setup right here. It was 890 by 872. Okay, here's the gap. All right, here's the gap. Right, recently sold off the last couple days, cleared this base. I was looking for big targets, 950. As a target, and hoping to see more if this could get going. Okay, so that was the play there. Nice buy setup over the secondary entry. There it is on the 1 minute. All right, so we can follow this trade here. We did get to new highs here. Okay, but that wasn't what I was looking for. I was looking for bigger targets. Okay, bigger targets on this. All right, and then we came in and we kind of did a retest here, and then we popped from there. So this is the kind of thing, that I think I just talked about it yesterday, that a lot of times, because our entry was 890 and we got a pivot at the same time, a lot of times it's nice, it feels comfortable to go to break even. And that's exactly what I did today. Was worried that this breakout that got volume, this wide range bar, was going to be the top. And so I trailed it to 980. Okay, so that cut, or sorry, 890. So that cut our risk to basically break even, small loss by a penny or two, depending on where you got filled. And it came in and got us. Now keep in mind, Our initial stop was 872. I don't have anything in my management plan that really allows me to do this, so I knew that it would be a management mistake. And anytime I break from the plan, I do track to see did it save me money? Did I avoid a full stop out? Or did I miss out on a good play by getting out too early? And pretty consistently, when I break from my management plan, it costs me money. At the end of the month, I check to see how much it cost me. Now, if I were to look at the number of times that I get out early and that it was a good call, it's half or a little bit more than half. So more than half the time that I get out early, it ends up stopping out, it ends up stopping out anyway. But the problem is, the reason that it still nets out negative for me, that it's costing me money, is because the most that I can save when I trail early is some fraction of 1R, some fraction of my full risk. But the most that I can miss out on a long is technically infinite, and on a short, technically however far it can go to 0. So do you see what the problem is? So each time I trail early, I save a little bit, but too often, or often enough, when I trail early, I miss out on a big move, okay? So this came in, right? Now, right, it didn't look good at all, and this is the thing that, makes it even more convincing that we should kill it, right? Didn't look good at all, right? Came in, and this went to 880. Remember, our stop was 872, and that was it. And then from there, right, off it goes. Now it's at 930. Okay, I'll zoom out a little bit. You can get a better picture there. Okay, we got trailed out, right, went all the way up to 938. So we're talking about 2.5 hours here, I think, that so far on the max that we missed out on. I definitely would have trailed some if it came when it came up to the highs. Now that we know that this resistance is there, I would have trailed some up there and then trailed another piece up here and probably still be holding some. Okay, hourly still intact. Okay, talk about the hourly as a means to stay in these plays until end of day. Hourly still intact. Now, when we trailed, right, this is the only hourly bar I had to work with. So when we trailed, I didn't know that we were going to get this and then this and then this and, so on and so forth. Okay. So that kind of ruined the day there on the COTY. Now, you might be saying, well, what about the re-entry? What if you got back in? Why didn't you get back in? And there was. Sammy called it over 908, I believe. And stop was 893. So I think some people in the room did get back in. Sammy called it official. They got back in, played it, and were able to come back into this new high. It happened to be triggering right after I took a stop on this EGAN. And you look at this chart, and you look at this bar, and you say, you played this long, how could you possibly take a stop? I'll go over this setup too. And this isn't so much a mistake as just, it's going to happen, okay? This was a breakout here. Okay, stop was this bottoming tail, and then entry was over 1050. So I got triggered in here and stopped out here. Okay, and then you can see what it did from there, right? Stopped me out right there, and then off it goes. Now, I think that's, some people use psychological stops, so they'll see this come in, it breaks the part they were looking for, they wait for a reaction, and then they trail. It's to avoid things like this, so I understand the approach of the psychological stop, right? So you don't get shaken out like I might, but I'm doing a lot of scanning through the day. Sometimes I'm on the mic, sometimes I'm answering questions and looking at different charts. The last thing I want is something to breach a psychological stop that when I'm not watching it and then just run amok on my P&L, and just so that's the reason I use hard stops. And that's the downside to the hard stops, right? Can come in, break you, take out your stop just by a little bit and go back up. So I understand that. This is not going to go down as a mistake. It just, just got the better of me. Okay. Otherwise, this would have been pretty nice there. Was a 1050 entry by 1015. So that was actually 1018. I gave it a little bit of room, but I didn't give it enough. So I knew that this was spready. This one was actually my favorite gap. I was focused on this in the morning, but it was a little bit too spready, I thought, for the open. But that's a good entry. 915 by 890 with 15-cent spread. So you'd basically be risking 2 Rs based on the slippage if this were to not work. So I thought that was a little bit too tough. And then went after it in the afternoon on really the only kind of setup here that didn't get follow through. So, yeah, it's just one of those days. I think it's like days like today, which are the hardest to moderate and try to help the room stay focused, because I just struggled to stay focused. At once, this COTY was making new highs, and I just knew that this was a mistake. One other thing, so there's a couple things about, management and trailing that I just wanted to make a point of, which is first that when you do trail it early, the most that you can save is some fraction of your risk. The most that you can miss out on is usually much greater. The second thing, which I brought up to the room, I asked them, I am most likely to make a management mistake on Friday. Does anyone know why that is? I asked them that. And people didn't really have any answers for me, but obviously they were curious. And the reason is because I'm sensitive to the performance of the week, my P&L on the week, right? So I'm thinking, if this stops out, how much of the week's profit am I going to give back? And that's on the Friday, when it's the last day, is when I'm most sensitive. I'm thinking, I don't want to give back too much today. The week kind of done okay. And then if I give back a lot, I'm going to think about it all weekend. I can't come back until Monday. So it's a sensitivity and attachment to my P&L that affects me most at the end of the week on a Friday. So I brought this to them, or I brought this up when it looked like this. I didn't know that this was going to recover, but I was letting them know. I was like, I know I'm breaking from my management to do this trail and trail it to break even. But, it's Friday. I have a tendency to do that more often than any other time, just from my tracking. And so, I told them that even when this didn't look good, didn't look like it was going to go higher. And so, lo and behold, it ended up being a pretty costly mistake. This was one of the nicer plays that I was able to get into this week, just didn't manage it correctly. Okay, so, it's just, we got to understand, I think, the mistakes that we're likely to make, when we're likely to make them, if we're going to reduce them. This will be one that I think will be hard for me to forget, and one that just really, really stung there. And it's one of those things that I know, doing it live and trying to also do what's best, for me and the people in the room, sometimes just makes it a little bit harder. But, hopefully, if you did get tripped out of this with me, you were able to get back in on Sammy's call. Or even better, you stuck to your own management. If your own management said you could stay in it, then you stayed in it. Because this ended up working out pretty nicely. Okay. Overall, still a good week. I really don't like ending on this kind of note, knowing that that I sabotage my own trading, that I sabotage my own good play there. So that's going to be something we'll just have to get over, and hopefully do better come next week. Okay. And the EGAN is there's nothing really too wrong with this. I think it's just more that you put these two together and it feels like a lot worse of a day. And it's going to happen. These kind of days are going to happen. These kind of self-inflicted wounds are the things that we really need to minimize. This EGAN stop out, I think I just have to accept it's going to happen. I think we had one because I was reviewing with the room over the last couple of weeks. We had one very, very similar on the COMM a couple Mondays ago, where this one we played it in here, came in and took out our stop, and then took off. So that kind of stuff's gonna happen. That I'm not so worried about. It's when I mess up the things that I can control, the ones that are really management mistakes. Okay, so hopefully there's a couple things that you can take away from this, and just be aware of it, when you have those kind of tendencies, and when you put yourself in a position to make those kind of mistakes. Okay, so just wanted to have a nice honest chat here as we wrap up for the week. Still should be plenty of good trading next week. Okay, so hopefully you'll get nice and rested, and we'll come back to it on Monday. All right, we'll see what the market gives us then, and I will talk to you then. All right, have a great weekend, everyone. I will talk to you on Monday.